Yeah, we have other commentators potentially able to rotate in. I think it's possible at this juncture. I was going to do the first game, but we have our SPC champion, Josh Sokol, is standing by. I might step aside and let him hop into the booth and do some commentary on this game too, alongside Wellington, because I know that he is going to do an excellent job. And you could even ask him about being the national champion of the U.S. as well, having both of our champions, Wellington and Josh, side by side doing commentary sounds pretty good to me. So I'll do that changeover right now, Matt.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for your time, Will. And we have so much other talent as well in the room. Basically, anybody who did not qualify for this finals had the option to play in a one-day Scrabble tournament, as you see going over David's shoulder, or they could have opted to hang out and watch the live stream in Las Vegas, as so many of them are doing. And maybe we'll get some more great Scrabble minds hopping on the headset. I'm just here soaking in all the talent, all the prestige, all the big names, and trying to have a rotating crew of just wonderful Scrabble experts on stream. So we'll keep Wellington on and sub out Will Anderson for Josh Sokol, the North American Scrabble Players Champion. So both champions of that event, Wellington winning the CSW division, Josh winning the NWL division, but Josh playing both lexicons, was able to play in this world event as well. Josh, do we have you on headset now?
Hey, Matt. How's it going?
Yeah. Excellent.
Hello, everybody.
All right, so we've got Josh on the headset, joined by me and Wellington, and play is underway. David Eldar gets to go first in the second game after Harshan got to go first the first time. And he has drawn BDEGNPS on his rack. Got a few options, maybe playing peg or beg, or maybe looks to exchange here. Wellington, would you make an exchange or play a short word in this situation?
I'll most definitely be making an exchange. I'll most likely leave a DENS on my rack, but GENS isn't still such a bad leave, but I think I'll prefer the D to the G, which is exactly what he has done.
Exchanging down to DENS, the move here. The G has been a tile that's been very interesting to watch in this tournament. In North America specifically, it has a reputation as being terrible. Players hate it here, and yet I've seen players hold on to that G, go out of their way to hold on to it at this event, even in the absence of an I and a G, or I and an N, rather. So that's been interesting. And now Harshan to respond out of AOORRTX, looks like Taxor going to be the move for him. Josh, would you play 5 tiles here after an exchange 3, or would you maybe keep things tighter with Oxo?
Yeah, I would definitely hesitate to make a long move such as Taxor, but ultimately, I wouldn't want to keep myself with 4 1-point tiles, including 2 duplicate Rs.
Yeah, that leaves tough.
Yeah, so I think this is okay, but I definitely would have spent a little bit more time. But Harshan, all throughout this tournament, seems to have been putting on the time pressure, and it's worked out for him, I think.
Yeah, so Adonai is going to come down a great pull into DENS, 3 vowels, but 3 vowels that allow him to bingo. He did also have Anodizer for 83 points, but opting for the defensive 5 overlap play here, which he spotted right away. That'll pull David ahead 79 to 26 after the bingo. EGIJORY, the pull for Harshan as he looks to respond. He'll have great ways to do so. Some very nice overlaps. YOGI plays, making AY at the top of Adonai's for 39 points. He's also got YOJAN to the AN for 30, or Goji making Reg for 32. Wellington, would you look to play off the J here, or make the stacking Yogi and hold that J for the future?
Well, I don't think there's any rush to play off the J. I would most likely favor playing off Yogi, especially because after Yogi, it isn't a very, very easy thing for the opponent to score that much. But if you want to play off the J, it could make it possible for the opponents to have a lot of scoring opportunities, which is something that you don't want to be gifting your opponent with after after he's up ahead by a little more than 50 points. So Yogi cuts down the difference, and it makes it a little bit more cumbersome for the opponent to score without opening scoring opportunities for yourself, which you can also then utilize with the J that you left from the earlier rack.
Yogi crucially will block the bingo that David has drawn as well. He'll have a 90 pointer up top through the A if it isn't obstructed. Of course, Harshan cannot know that, but this is going to be a huge decision, Goji versus Yogi here. Josh, would you look to play Yogi or Goji here?
I prefer Goji over Yogi, just because after Goji, you already have the Y to stack next to that ADO. You actually have the word YER that scores already over 30 points next turn. So you'll have a pretty likely chance to be able to use the Y to score, whereas after playing a word like Yogi, the J doesn't really have an immediate home on the board. So I'd be a bit hesitant to keep it. Of course, if things open up, the J can be very nice. But I think Goji would be my preferred option, and that's what Harshan looks to be doing here.
Josh, of course, for those unfamiliar with his strategy, very much thinks about options for next turn, setting himself up, where his tiles will fit for him in the future. So he's showing a little bit of that next level analysis. I think I prefer Wellington's suggestion of Yogi here slightly, but both plays have a lot of merit. Goji going to come down for Harshan, and David going to respond to his bingo with a second bingo. He's actually now been given the opportunity to double PI as well. So Pavonian played up top, PAVONIAN for 90, and now the double at the bottom of the board. Blank L Pavilion scores 98 points here. We expect David to find the double here, do we not?
Yeah, definitely. He will definitely find it. Yeah, and he has found it.
Yeah, he's already set it up on his rack as well. So he'll look a little bit longer, make sure this is perhaps his only double, his most defensive double he's able to make. But Pavilion for 98 after David's pulled the blank into his post bingo draw, and this one is going to get out of hand pretty quickly unless Harshan able to respond. The bingo will put David ahead 177 to 58 here.
Yeah, this is looking pretty good for David out of the opening. His interesting decision of Adonize instead of Anodizer has created this kind of weird board where at some point things are going to get opened up. And yeah, I mean, just drawing that blank and being able to pounce on whatever opening Harshan created was really, really good for David. So I think he's going to be recovering from the last game this time. We'll see, though.
All right, we talked about the ability to shake off a mistake and get it going in the next one. Well, this is a good way to do that. Exchange bingo bango and have 170 points after only making 2 valid moves. The bingo of Pavilion, if that's what David chooses to play here, will give Harshan a bingo back. So that will be at least something to continue to monitor. This game will not be out of hand, but Harshan still with an uphill climb after Pavilion. You got to wonder, what is David thinking about here? Why has he spent so much time when he sees 98 points in front of him?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, well, here it comes. Yeah, what do you think, Welly? What's going on there?
Well, it is possible that he was weighing the implications of the pavilion as against. But I don't think, given the other alternative, which was Pavonian, which exposes a 9-timer, I think Pavilion should have been an easy decision, but only God knows what was going through his mind. We could probably ask him after the game or something like that. But I think he probably was just taking his time to make sure that he wasn't coming up with under Farida.
Did you guys notice David when he was drawing his tiles, that little face he made towards the camera? I think he's if he's thinking something, it's here we go or something. I think,
Is that as soon as
he's
he
feeling pretty
exposed the
good.
LUZ play that plays for 67?
Yeah, well, this was before he even saw a tile. I think he just looked at the camera, so we like that. That's some good content. But yeah, Harshan spots his bingo here, his bonus, his premium, whatever word you want to use. Using all your letters, he's gonna get an extra 50 points. So it's still a game for sure. But David definitely
Oh,
gonna
and
be up by around.
misplaces
Oh
it.
my gosh! Oh my gosh! What is he doing?
He has
Oh my
misplaced
goodness.
it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Whoa. Whoa. Okay.
Wow, that was some nerves, I think.
But he takes the extra time before hitting his clock and does catch that he's placed those letters in the wrong spot. Errantly is indeed the play for Harshan, and he bounces back 177 to 132. So David LUZ playing above Pavilion, 67 points. He's not going to spend more than a few more seconds here, I don't think. Josh, would you spend more time here looking for better options, or would you just plunk the Z?
If I'm spending more time here, it's just to get into my opponent's head. This is just a 100% clear play. But if he's just going to sit there and tank for a little bit, I think it's because he wants Harshan to think that he has a tough decision, and indeed he does not.
And Wellington, we've seen you make some plays extremely fast as well. Would you have already pulled the trigger on this one as well?
I would have done that long ago. I don't subscribe to wasting time when it is not necessary, because you might need the time in the end game, and you never can tell how complicated the game can get later. So if you have an obvious play, make it quick enough and move ahead. That has always been my motto, and I always stand by that.
Yeah, time always. You never know when you're going to need that time in an end game. Some
Yeah.
games end up close. Some games get out of hand. You don't know, but it's always good to have it banked as opposed to spending it all early and facing an uphill climb for the rest of the game. Harshan now trailing over 100 points yet again. He'll look to narrow that gap with this turn. He has a variety of options. Through the eye in Pavilion, Vienna plays for 30 points. He can also open this board a little bit better with the play of MVULE through the L in Errantly for 26, though that does hold ANN. He could shell out for a bingo. VULN in that same spot is 14, or he can try to open other lines with the play of Maven or Vanmin, making EN and Errantly. Wellington, what would you be looking to do in this situation down over 100 points?
I think I would probably have favored Van Main, but the U leave is something that is a little bit gives me a little bit more concern. So I'll probably search for other options. But I think Van Main isn't bad. But if you look at it, Vienna actually a good move also, because it opens the body in another direction and keeps things alive while leaving the E of errant leave with all the options that it provides. So I think I will most likely go with Vienna. And to another merit for Vienna is that I believe the UM rack leaf to be superior to the single U leaf.
Big decision here. David has drawn another bingo rack here. It is not Dave Wiegand in that rack, the American player who nearly made these finals as well, but two bingos, DEAWING and Windage, WINDAGE. And those are going to play, or Windage at least going to play alongside Errantly up at the top of this board if Harshan not able to block that spot. You can't know what your opponent has. Harshan likely not looking to address that spot. Vienna looks to be a solid play here, and it's one that Harshan's going to make, but he is now going to get bingoed on yet again by David.
Yeah, I honestly think Vienna was the clear favorite play. Just scores a lot, leaves the openings that were already on the board next to the E and Errantly. He didn't know this, but no matter what he did, David was still gonna play Windage. But I think Vienna, if you're gonna keep a U, the M is a really good tile to keep with it, as David finds and plays relatively quickly.
And
is
David has to decide where to slot this bingo now. It is 79 points where he's laying it down, but he can play it on the other side of that E for 76 with a big lead like this. Wellington, would you choose to play it on the left or right side?
I'll definitely play it on the left side, on the other side, because it is tougher to hook EE from the back than from the way he played it for bingo lanes. And by playing it on the other side, forming EE this other way, you have also constrained all the floaters in anodize and the possible high scoring chances that your opponent could utilize in front of Adonais. So I think for someone who is leading quite well, I think windage on the other side of the errantly would have been a more interesting board situation.
You see, we picked up some crowd noise there. The delayed stream just noticing Harshan setting down the incorrect spelling of errantly. That was extremely loud, so perhaps we'll have to figure out a way to siphon off some of that noise. That obviously we've got a delay for a reason to combat that, but that was a lot louder than I thought it would be. Wow, goodness.
Yeah, that was pretty loud. It's a good thing we have a delay. Obviously, yeah, if the players actually did hear that, they know why. Obviously, both players know that Harshan laid down the wrong spelling of errantly, but yeah, I might need some crowd control at some point.
Goodness, yeah, okay, wow. Anyway, I digress. Josh, would you have played windage in that spot, or would you have concurred with Wellington's decision there?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because on one hand, if you play on the left side, you can imagine a word will happen from the W to the triple on the top right corner, and yeah, it does seem like leaving that line open on the left side of the EE is potentially going to cause some issues. Although there might be relatively soon there might be a play that parallels Adonais, and that will deal with the threat of playing on the left side. So I'm not really sure. I think I probably would have taken the points, but I can see an argument for either.
A tough decision, and one that, I guess you just kind of trust your gut at a certain point and make it. But we'll cut back to the play for Harshan here with a big deficit. He looks to play in this situation mulct, M-U-L-C-T. He's going to play it forming T-E-E as well. Did any of you see, or either of you see, an option that really stuck out to you in that turn?
Well, I think his rack wasn't a very, very promising rack, so there weren't much options for him. I think Mort was a decent play, and I'm actually okay with it. And
yeah, look at this. Okay, this game's probably over now.
Yeah, David bingoing yet again. When it rains, it pours in Scrabble. Primsaz comes down for 67. Eldar ahead over 200 points now on Harshan. Sometimes this happens. It is what it is.
It looks like David, earlier, I guess you asked the question why David was hesitating on Pavilion. I see now, like people discussing maybe he was unsure of that spelling. I think it's also spelled with 2 L's, if I'm not mistaken. And it also seems like for Thrimsaz, he was a little unsure. He ended up drawing his tiles relatively quickly. I think he does have some nerves, and because of the phony word he played last game, it still is making him unsure of words he'd normally be pretty sure of. So both times it was definitely a word, and I think David will maybe calm his nerves down for the next game, and we'll see some really high level Scrabble, which we've been seeing already.
Sean not going to go down without a fight. He has spotted his only playable bingo, Frailty, F-R-A-I-L-T-E-E, to bring him up to 255 to 390 here. Likely running out of time, but at least he's a little bit closer, and perhaps some drama here. Eldar now with a bad rack, GIIPSUW, but he will have good scoring opportunities. Upswing plays through the N in Vienna, and Swipe plays to the E in Frailty, although I think you've got to keep things tight here. David agrees, playing this one quickly. He's not going to spend too much more mental energy, I think, in this one as he looks to look ahead for next turn. And 4 E's on the post bingo draw for Harshan, just not getting better for him.
Yeah, that was a great find by David. Very quick. He knows that it's just a killer play, and he plays it without hesitation.
So C, D, E, 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 O is the pull for Harshan. Wellington, in this situation, would you be trying to breathe some life into this board? Would you be even trying to open a triple, or would you just do something like COWED through the W up top and kind of end this game?
While it is okay to want to hope against hope, but I think it's pretty much obvious that this game is gone. But if you are still wanting to hope against hope, I think cowed will be COWED will be a way to go about that and just keep hope alive. But other than that, I think cowed is the most decent play for right now, and I think he's going to come down with it.
We will go ahead and expose the unseen pool now. 23 unseen tiles to Harshan, 16 left in the bag for him to draw. Means time is certainly running out. He'll need probably 2 bingos to get back into this game, and he'll have 2 turns to draw them. So cowed, holding 3 E's. Going to be pretty tough for him to bingo next turn. That blank still in there for him to find. The Q could perhaps muck up his opponent's rack, but this one largely feels gone, as Wellington put it. EHED, an option through the H in Thrim says, scores 32 as well. Josh, would you also just kind of throw in the towel on this one, get ready for game 3?
Yeah, I would definitely play cowed. I mean, there's still an outside chance that Harshan can maybe get 2 bonuses after cowed and potentially come back. I think it's much likelier. I mean, it's close to 0, but much likelier than just trying to maybe open 2 triple word scores at this juncture.
Oh my goodness! Sorry, I'm looking back at the late chat now. Is that? Wow, Molt blocked an incredible 9-letter play through the TO. That is totally wild. That would have been a self-describing word after that 9-letter could have come down for David. That's fun. I won't say it on stream because I don't want to get us banned.
You see it, Welly?
Nah.
Look.
It plays through the TO. It would have been a 9, but Molt knocked it out on the Thrimsa's rack.
Okay.
That's yeah, okay. Can't say it here. EHED, the move for Harshan, effectively throwing in the towel, but that's what you've got to do when your opponent bingos on you over and over and over. He's been out bingoed 4-2 this game. He's also been hit with the big Z bomb. Just hasn't really had the opportunity there for the Englishman.
Yeah, do you guys think he might be trying? I mean, he's just trying to score, but he might have some hope later on of blocking all the QI spots on the board and hoping to catch David with the Q. That might be a shot in the dark attempts to win the game, because if he does get one bonus down and there are no spots for a Q, it's possible that he can maybe make up some differential. That's interesting.
David giving the view we've seen so often, showing off that green sweater and the fine mesh fibers, either that or his arm hairs and the pores on his arms. I didn't catch the rack. Josh or Wellington, did you get it?
Yeah, I got the rack. He had a BRIBNQ. NYQ, yeah.
Okay, so the Q on his rack, that's right.
The Q, yeah. Q, BRIBNYQ, yeah.
There we see it, yeah. I think he's considering just playing bribe or maybe just playing off the Q.
Bribe, INBY, INBYE. Bribe would set up the Q a little bit nicer for a QI plunk next turn.
Yeah, I think any of these plays are good enough to win the game. But yeah, you gotta be sure of yourself. Yeah, the play of bribe, setting up another Q spot. It is setting up a B that Harshan might be able to use to to play from. But yeah, I think pretty much anything here is good enough, and we'll probably see something like bribe or in by. Maybe David's gonna try and play the Q off.
But I think playing the queue off is a very, very good option right now because one of the though low probability way to lose this kind of game is to be trapped with the queue, and you don't want to be doing that right now, and especially by playing bribe brings more options into life in the game, and the game can get a little bit more complicated from there, although there's very little chance that is happening. But I think with this kind of lead and this rack, I will most likely go for Niqab. Niqab also takes away the A option for possible bingos from the opponents to get into the game. So I would most likely be going with Niqab. Yeah, that would be my option.
Yeah, with the lead of 140 points, you have to think, what is the worst thing that can happen to me? What is the only way I can lose this game? So getting stuck with the Q and a high-scoring bingo to that A are about the worst things that can happen. Niqab, a good way to address both of those. David instead playing QIN and UN. There is an unseen I from his perspective, but perhaps he doesn't care enough about just an IF or IT play beneath QIN. It won't outrun him, so that's what he opts to do here. He won't draw the I, but Harshan also doesn't have it. It's still in the bag, as is the second blank in this game. And Harshan will have an opportunity. I think Foyer, F-O-Y-E-R, through the Y gives him just a little bit of life left in this game, maybe fewer at the top through the W as well. But in this situation, it'll be very tough for him to mount any sort of comeback.
Yeah, I mean, he has some decent options. I think he's going to put fewer down, creates that opportunity from the R. But yeah, he's probably pretty resigned at this point. But yeah, that's a good play. He's continuing to give himself maybe some outside chance, but yeah, the score is just too far apart at this point.
And David now going to have some high-scoring options through the E in Frailty, Hobber, H-O-B-B-E-R, or Yabber, Y-A-B-B-E-R, both options there. And you do string out either a Y or an H in a triple line to get bingo 2, but for 48 points, you're going to survive those bingos anyway, right? Wellington, would you be afraid to play Yabber or Hobber here, or would you go ahead and take the points?
I think that's also, I wanted to mention the genius behind the QIN play, leaving the BBRY. I think it is after he drew the replacement ties that I actually saw the merits behind the QIN play. So kudos to him for making such an interesting choice of move. And because with Yaba, I'm not sure I'm going to be bothered about my opponent's replies with this kind of lead and the board situation and the stage of the game. The game is practically gone with Yaba or Hoba.
Yeah, are we going to see a challenge here? I wonder. Yeah, Harshan basically, if he's not sure of this word, he's probably going to want to challenge just in case. Yeah, there we see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? The game is lost after this play. Try to get a turn, even if you're 99% sure that this is a word. Try to pick, give yourself any kind of shot at all.
But yeah, we'll come back good. We have the knowledge of knowing all of the words from where we sit. So yeah, that's a nice play by David. We'll totally seal the deal. And now, of course, what Wellington is saying, now that QIN is on the bottom of the board, most of the letters you're placing at that middle left square, triple square, are not going to be of any concern, mostly.
The other merit, if he pulls a U there, he'll play Burka through the Q for a ton of points with the BBRY leave. So
True.
Lots of good ways for this to go well for him. He's able to make the 6-tile play through the E. He's able to fish for Burka as well. QIN looks stronger and stronger the longer we look at it.
Yeah.
So this one just about done. Harshan, the pediatrician from the UK, is going to take a loss here. And we've seen now a pattern in our best of 5 finals. at the SPC that we streamed. And now across the first 2 games of these finals, the player sitting on the left and the player going first, 7-0 in those 7 games. So we'll see if somebody can break serve finally, or if we'll just kind of see the player who goes first win the game. Going first in Scrabble, roughly a 4 or 5 percentage point advantage. I think it's 54 to 56% to win if you go first in neutral skill games, right, Josh?
Actually, we have some maybe updated or different numbers from the ones I thought, which I think I thought it was around 55%, but based on the games we've seen at the Scrabble Players Championship and at the World English Scrabble Players Association Championship, the WESPA, person going first has been winning slightly over 57% of the time, with between a 17 and 20 point advantage.
Wow. Okay. So that's even a little more stark advantage than we've seen before. Perhaps I think due to the rise of computer programs and the increased frequency of just exchanging on that first turn, trying to get a better rack. I think players used to play long a lot more frequently on that first turn, playing to get some tile turnover. But we realize now that allows so many floaters, so many 8-letter bingos back. Maybe we're just playing that first turn right and maximizing on the advantage. Do you have any thoughts on that, Wellington, going first and the advantage there?
Going first definitely has its advantage, but I think it's still within the neighborhood of 55% thereabouts, because what Josh mentioned earlier, I think it might still just be based on these championships, but I think the mean value is still going to lie in the 55% thereabouts. And going first definitely has this advantage. It makes it easy for you to, for example, if you have a not so promising rack, you could opt for an exchange easily rather than when your opponent is starting. Imagine your opponent starting with a bingo and you have a bad rack. It becomes a more complicated decision there. And that is just one example of how complicated one of the advantages that you can get from going first.
So yeah, going first has always been an advantage. People love to complain about having to go second in the game, probably more than they should. Read more into it, but it is certainly an advantage in this game, as is going out before your opponent, trying to make the last play something you have a little bit more control over than a computer algorithm telling you who's going first. Harshan, after the play of Koyao, has one outplay here, and that is from the R in fewer, if I'm not mistaken. RETIE, that word there. So the optimal end game for David, likely block that spot and go out in 2. I don't know if he's going to spend his time here trying to make an optimal end game here, or if he'll just make a high scoring play like Daybook.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's optimal to block retie, because Harshan has 40 points in the bottom left corner for IT if that's left open. So it's possible that the best end game here would be just leaving it open and maybe trying to interfere with IT in the bottom, QI and IT, something like that, or just trying to maximize score over 2 turns.
I've of course got the computer program in front of me to run it, but the highest end game for David Eldar is to counter that Q opportunity with a sweet opportunity of his own. DONKO, forming ADGO, and teen places that K1 short of a triple word square. So you block retie and you set up AY as a high scoring out for yourself. There are other plays that do something similar in that same spot, but the computer likes those end games the most. How do you like them apples?
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, end games are really difficult. If you're newer to Scrabble and maybe you know a little bit about chess, chess is a perfect information game, where Scrabble is not. But when all of the tiles are out of the bag, it is time to play a perfect information game. It's a little fun part every Scrabble game, where you try to calculate the best sequence of moves while looking at your opponent's possible moves as well. And it's a very, very difficult thing to get perfectly right. Even our best engines, computer engines, struggle in the end game. So yeah, it's especially with a blank on your rack that even increases your possible moves by manyfold. So this sort of endgame is probably one of the harder ones to get right for David. So we'll see what he comes up with.
And again, endgame, not a huge consideration. The format, a best of 7 finals, one where spread is unlikely to matter, barring the event of a tie. And yet, Scrabble, a game where every percentage point, every decimal of a percentage point is trying, these players are always trying to optimize it. So I don't know. Should David spend the mental energy here and try to figure out this end game perfectly, or should he just make a move and try to save some brain energy, as we've already seen him make some fatigue related mistakes this tournament? We'll see what he decides to do here.
Well, I think it's a mistake on his part to want to make an optimal play. I think it's just make any play and move ahead.
I knew you were going to say that, Welly.
Yeah, you don't need to. You need a lot of you. You're going to need the energies later in the game, and it's always good to have something left in the tank when things get rough down the line. So I will most likely go for the first move that comes to mind, and that would just be it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with what you're saying, Wellington. I feel like if I'm able to solve an end game like this one, and like when I go back to analyze the game, I see that I made the best play. It's just such a good feeling. But I think, yeah, in this situation, it really doesn't matter. The only time that the only reason it would matter to make the best play that wins by the most amount of points would be if there is a tie involved in this best of 7, and the likelihood of a tie is extremely low in Scrabble. I think it's in the hundreds, 1 out of hundreds. So yeah, it doesn't seem like it's likely to matter, but you do want to try. It's really a fun puzzle. So I'm partial to both ends of this.
It's even more unlikely that a tie would make a difference, because for the tie to make a difference, it has to be, the eventual score has to be 3.5, 3.5. So that is, you can have a tie and it is 4.5, 2.5.
Right.
You can have a tie and it is 4.5, 1.5. So, but I really wouldn't burn any time in making this move. I'll just play and get the game over with.
And I think perhaps part of the reason we're seeing so much time from David here is because he wasn't thinking about this end game. He previously had a playable out bingo daybook played with TEED, and Harshan's play of Koyao just barely blocked it. So David wasn't thinking about this situation at all, and now suddenly like, I got to make a different move instead. But yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be 1-1. But yeah, how much energy is David going to be spending here? He's already played in the Scrabble Players Championship prior to the WESPA Championship. He's now played, 65 games, I believe, in the last little over a week. So it's, yeah, I wonder what his energy levels are at right now. Myself and Wellington also played in both events, and our other commentator, Will. And I wanted to ask actually Wellington, like, how he was feeling at the end of the WESPA Championship after playing so many games over such a short period of time.
Yeah, well, I was so bummed out, and it actually had a way of. I thought I was going to be able to find a way to make sure it doesn't have much of an effect, but it turned out that it had a greater effect on the last few games than I thought it would. So some lessons have been learned, and hopefully we would apply those lessons in the future. And if a book does come out tomorrow, I think the events of this weekend would have contributed a whole lot more than a chapter to such a book. Definitely. So more like the saying that the lessons you learn in defeats are more, they sink in way more than those that you learn you pick up from victory. So I think it was a very very fantastic situation, and but David is still he's still thinking.
David stirred the pot about it stirred some controversy during the last chance qualifier about slow rolling these end games and certain players with the propensity to do it, and now David the one doing it. I just wanted to point out the slight bit of hypocrisy there, but alas, I'll hold my tongue for now, David. Just know that you have been publicly put on blast.
Yeah, I know. For those that don't know Matt very well, I know of Matt as somebody that does not have the patience for this sort of thing. Like I said, there are two sides to it. Do you really want to take the time to solve an end game when it doesn't really matter, or just get things over with? Especially when you're on the losing side, it's an eternity to wait for a play to come down. And I'm enjoying every moment of this. We get to relax and just see someone's thought process. But I think Harshan is not in in a great state of mind right now. But he's a very patient guy for sure.
This is going to set up KONDO as an outplay for David. So that's going to be 55 points forming DAK if not blocked by Harshan. Harshan has to decide if he wants to score points beneath the queue or if he wants to address the 55-point play himself. But the slow roll from David. I will say, if spread matters, if we're in a situation where you need the points, of course, take your time, solve out the end game. But if you have one playable bingo and you're going to sit there for 6 minutes before you put it down, we're going to have some words after the game. I'm not happy about that. Just play the bingo, man. Come on. Or in this situation where spread seems to not matter at all, just kind of do something, please. I'd like to go out in the hallway and talk to my friends. But alas, each has their own style.
On the subject of endgames, we do see a comment in the chat that's going to be appearing at some point. The current Scrabble engines that we use, Quackle was mentioned by Wellington earlier. There was Maven before Quackle. Those were the engines that people developed, and there's certain endgames that are difficult to solve for those engines, but currently there's a lot of work being put in on the sidelines to create a perfect Scrabble endgame solver, and it should be available at some point soon, I believe. There's already been one actually created by French Scrabble players that's able to solve endgames up to, I think, 2 tiles left in the bag, but it is solvable. It just takes a lot of code and a lot of smarts to get there. It's just there's so many possibilities, millions and millions upon possibilities sometimes that have to be analyzed in just one simple Scrabble endgame.
And I mean, those 2 in the bag end games now are solved in a vacuum. But in Scrabble, unless your opponent has just played a 7-letter bingo or a 7-tile exchange, even after the 7-tile exchange, they will likely not have a random rack, right? You're going to have to make some kind of inference. What letters could they have held? What is more likely to be in the bag? What is more likely to be on the rack? So, maybe we've solved 2 in the bag end games, but technically that only applies right after your opponent has bingoed with 9 in the bag to leave 2 in the bag, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it just gets more and more difficult as more and more tiles are left unseen. There was research done actually that proved, now that we have a perfect endgame solver not available to the public yet, research was done that proved that Nigel Richards, currently the best player in the world, was solving endgames more accurately than our engines were solving endgames. but still not perfectly. And so it's just really, to me, it's just fascinating and beautiful that our game is so, it's such in its embryonic phase still. There's just so much more to learn. There's so much more to figure out about strategy and about everything. And just feeling that like eureka of maybe coming up with this new strategic concept or talking about strategy with peers. It's just been such a fantastic experience, and it's a pleasure to be able to discuss it with you, Matt, and with Wellington and everybody else that's been in the chat. So yeah.
I think something just occurred to me. I think there's an angle to David's having wasted a couple of time before making his last move. That has just occurred to me. It is possible that he is trying to draw Harshan into consuming the same amount of time in before making this decision. And but if I were Harshan, I wouldn't fall for that because I believe David is a much younger player, and he should have more stamina when it comes to when the games get longer. So. And I think Harshan is falling for it, so he shouldn't fall for it. He should just make his IT move and move ahead.
Yeah, he's in the deep dark forest. He's now retracking tiles to see what David has. But on the energy thing, I do think because Harshan had not played in the previous event, the Scrabble Players Championship, I don't know that David will have that youthful energy and fortitude surpassing Harshan's. I think Harshan's been very energetic and very focused throughout this whole event. So I don't know, who this is affecting more, if it's David or if it's Harshan. So, anyways,
I wonder who it will affect more. Let's find out.
All right. Harshan blocking the setup here. Okay.
Is that the best move?
No, even if it was a block, it would have been DAEEE. I think that would have just shifting the EE a little step further would have been better.
Yeah, well, now David is going out, and the game has finally come to an end. I think the idea of I don't know what to say. Anyways, I'll bring it back to you, Matt. This game has gone to David.
Come on, be respectful. We got players watching from overseas up way past their bedtimes trying to root for Harshan, or if you're rooting for David, geez, it's probably like 5 a.m. or something in Australia. But alas, the slow roll finally comes to an end. The end game has been solved by both of these players. This one is done. David Eldar with a big victory, bingoing 4 times, cashing the Z and the Q for big points as well. And he will win game 2 to tie the series up 1-1. We are down to what is effectively now a best of 5. Let's cut to the overhead mic and see if we get some thoughts from these players.
And then 538, 542, 542, 364. Okay, right, well done.
Good luck.
I think they're meant to submit the result somehow. I don't know whether they'll just take the result or
They can.
just going to take a picture. Just 1 second, hold on.
Sorry.
Let me take a picture.
Don't forget.
You need us to submit.
We need to submit it.
Sure.
We do.
Okay.
You did it last time, right?
No, actually, last time it was manual. But we can do. It's not an issue.
Yeah. I don't know if I must have it. If you don't, we can do it.
So you agreed 364.
I've got access to the portal anyway.
So 364, 542, right?
That sounds right.
Okay.
If it comes down to it, we can do what we can.
Okay. Yep. Good. I'm going to take a bit of a break if that's
Of
okay.
course.
Yeah. Sure.
See you back in like 10 minutes or
Yeah.
so.
Perfect.
All right, perfect. Bye-bye. 12:07. And London. Yeah, I did submit. Thank you. All right, submitted.
Submitting electronically also has the advantage that tells you who you're playing.
Okay, so not a lot of action here. You see Harshan opting to take another little break before the next one. So we will cut back over to our interview room and talk just a little bit more about Scrabble and the future, gather the thoughts of our North American champion, Joshua Sokol.